On today's show, we talk about a virtual festival in Heads Up. We look at the basics of budgeting for the big topic and got a little something different for you this week for Real Talk. It's 4 p.m. We're live, and this is the Moneycast by MyBank. So, welcome to today's show, show 9 of our 10-show run. This is our penultimate episode in the season, so next week our last one. But don't worry, we'll be showing you how you can get involved and send us all your ideas for season 2. As always, I'm Nick Smith-Patel. I'm the head of education for young adults here at MyBank, and I'm your host for this My Moneycast. If you want to get involved, or if you just want to watch this every week, you can do that on all our social media channels, scrolling along the bottom of the screen now. And as always, you have the option, if you want to send us an email or just send us a message, you can do that via any of those channels, or you can send us an email at info@mybank.org. Of course, the other thing you can do is you can put it in the chat today. I believe I've got Declan with me today in the chat. So any questions you have, put them in. We'll do our best to answer them live, and we'll be putting some bits and pieces you might find useful in the chat as well. So, without further ado, let's get into our news roundup and let's get into Heads Up. So, firstly, let's talk about those of you that might be missing those festivals. Glastonbury cancelled, we know, not happening this year, but the festival organisers of Glastonbury have decided to allow the BBC to show all of the old stuff that they've got, loads of old clips, old things from the pyramid stage. And off the back of that, a movement called Glastonbury, I think that's right, Glastonbury has started with people trying to raise money by getting people to do the festival thing at home to raise money for a few places: Mind, the NHS Charities Together, the NSPCC, including Childline, Refuge, and the Trussell Trust. If you want to find out any more information, you can go to their Facebook page just here with information about all the things that are coming up. It's scheduled for this weekend. So if you want to get involved, you can do that. You can also find out how to donate or set up a fundraising page. There's been live DJ sets, and there's also a bunch of printables. So if you want to feel like you're really at the festival, a few things you can print out here. First of all, you can print out some bunting to make it feel like you've got a real kind of party vibe. Wristbands, if you want to get official with it, and even a printable pyramid stage that you can print out to use as a phone stand so you can watch all the stuff when you're in the garden or in the sun. So if you can't get to a music festival really, then maybe consider Glastonbury this weekend. Next up, on a more serious note, card repayment holidays and loan repayment holidays are due to be extended until October 31st. So the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, we've talked about them before, has asked that loans and credit card payments and credit card interest be offered to be deferred until October 31st. This is an extension. It's already in place, but we've just extended it essentially until November. This doesn't cover things like payday loans and car payments. That's separate, so do keep an eye out on the news. They are going to try and do something for those kind of groups. But the other thing to say on this is that you shouldn't assume that this scheme is going to continue after October 31st. So now's the time to get your ducks in a row and to start having a plan of how you're going to pay that debt back. And of course, even the lenders know that it's going to be tricky and it's going to take some time. I've got a quote here from UK Finance, is this quote. So this is from Eric Leaders, I believe his name's pronounced. I apologize if I get that wrong. He's a managing director of personal finance at UK Finance. So he said that lenders understand that many households will continue to see their finances squeezed as the pandemic continues. And we are working hard to ensure everyone gets the support suited to their needs. So basically saying that the debt industry is not clueless. They know that it's going to be tricky for some people. So maybe some steps being taken from them to help their customers. Last up, we talk about free things all the time. This is some free stuff you can get to lower water bills. So if you're having a look now on the screen, there is about, I think, £200 worth of savings if you take all these things up. There's things like shower timers, detection strips to see if you've got a leak, things that you can put in your tap so they use less water. All of these things are designed to help you save water and to save money on your bill. So if you haven't already checked to see if you can get some of these things, make sure you find out who the local water company is for your area, check their website, and see if you can get some of that stuff for free. Personally, I've got a shower head that reduces the water usage and apparently saves me about £56 a year just for having a different shower head. It's free, it's going to save you money, and we're talking about budgeting today. What better way to start than with a way to save some cash on your water bill? So that's our roundup for the news today. Let's get straight into it. We've got lots to do today. Let's get straight into the big topic. And this week, it's a big one. It's the basics of budgeting. It's a big topic, this, and it's one of those things that people hear the word budgeting and they have lots of different ideas. And some people just get a little bit scared at the idea of thinking about their budget. So we're going to try and demystify it a little bit for you today. We're going to take all the stuff we're doing today from our MoneyWorks program. You can now do MoneyWorks virtually. We're offering this as a kind of Zoom classroom type deal. If you want any more information about how to get involved in that, or if you're a referrer with young people who think might be benefiting from a course like this, which is a bit more kind of full, then feel free to email us at info@mybank.org. We cover all of these things on MoneyWorks, including budgeting, and we're going to be working out of session 1. And the session 1 plan includes things like this. So we're going to take a few of these bits out, and we're going to give you a taste of what MoneyWorks is like. But if you are interested in MoneyWorks, info@mybank.org. Do drop us an email and we'll see what we can do about getting you onto a program. Okay, so let's go. First of all, what is a budget? Well, a budget is very, very simply knowing what you've got coming in and what you've got going out. That's it. It's just knowing those two things, and being able to have more money coming in than you have going out is the ultimate goal. So it's very, very simple. It can be done a number of different ways. You don't have to do anything really clever to do a budget. The big thing is to prioritize your stuff. So on your budget, you might have a lot of different things. You might have bills, you might have going out, you might have cigarettes if you're a smoker like I am. The trick with a budget is to make sure you're doing all the stuff you need to do first, and then see how much money you've got left to do the stuff you want to do. And then hopefully you've still got some money to put away for savings. One of the rules that we talk about, the golden rules that you'll find out there, is that 50% of your income should go onto your needs, 30% you can then spend on your wants, and 20% should go to your savings. Now, not everyone's in that situation, especially if, like me, you live in London and rent's really expensive. That might not be possible, but some form of splitting your money up into those 3 brackets will help you have some money in reserve in case something goes wrong. And it's a good idea to have some savings in reserve. Always have that money for a rainy day, because you never know when it's going to start pouring. In terms of wants versus needs, this is one of the biggest things that people struggle with when they start to do their budgets, because what is a want versus a need? Well, we define it very, very simply as a need is something to keep the status quo, that is required to keep the status quo, and a want is something that will enhance life or make life a little bit nicer. So if you think about rent, if I don't pay my rent, I'm going to get booted out of my house, right? So I have to pay my rent if I want to stay in my flat. Likewise, if I want to keep moving, I'm going to have to eat something at some point. These are needs. My board game collection is entirely a shelf full of wants. I don't need any of those board games. They don't keep me alive in any way. They entertain me, but that's the difference. We sometimes make our wants needs in our own head, especially if it's something that we've been used to for a long, long time. It took me a long time to realize that my cigarettes weren't a need. I just really wanted them. So it's about splitting that out and thinking about that really carefully and understanding the difference between the two. I guess one thing you can think about is when you're trying to buy something that isn't a need and it's just a want, here's some things you might want to consider. First of all, do you need it? I mean, if you don't need it, do you really need to pay for it right now? Do you have something similar? How much are you going to use this thing? Is it going to get used once and end up in the back of the cupboard? And what will it go with? If it's a clothing item, if it's tech, will it work with other things? Make sure you're thinking about these things before you buy it, not after, because it's kind of too late after that fact. Can you afford it? So think about your budget. Think about how much you've got spare. Is that enough money to legitimately allow you to buy this item? Borrowing, as we know from previous episodes, is going to cost you. So can you really afford it? And if you have got through both those checks and you still decide you want to go ahead and purchase, can you get it cheaper somewhere else? Always check online. And we've talked a little bit about finding some deals, and we're going to do a little bit more of that today. But make sure that you're thinking about secondhand. Make sure you're thinking about online, because it's normally cheaper online than it is in the shops. And one top tip, just before we get to top tips, if you're ever in a store and you're thinking about buying something, just really quickly pull out your phone and just search for the same item online. You'll be surprised how much the in-store prices might be inflated. And another tip, if stores offer in-store collection, but the price online is cheaper, if you reserve, most stores will honor the cheaper price when you get to the store. So just by going online and reserving, you might save some pennies that way. But let's say that, you've decided that these things are not things you need and you want to work out how much they're affecting you. Well, there is a thing we can do We call it the demotivator. So you can demotivate yourself a little bit and understand about how your finances really work. So let's talk about how the demotivator works. When we're on our programs, we give out a sheet of paper, but you can go to this website instead, which is moneysavingexpert.com/shopping/demotivate. And when you go there, it's basically a digital version of this. This is our paper form that we give to young people or people on our courses. And if you do money works, you'll get the chance to do this yourself. The idea is that you put into the top left, what do you buy that you don't need? How much does that cost you every time you buy it? How often do you buy it? And then you multiply the cost by the X number, which is with the same group of how often you buy it. That will tell you how much you spend in a year. And then from there, you can work out what you could spend that on instead. So I used to be a 20-a-day smoker. I used to buy a box of cigarettes every day. At the price they are now, £10 a box, 365 days a year. That's £3,650 a year on cigarettes. So when I used to say to people, I can't afford a holiday, I could. I just chose not to spend it on my holiday. I chose to spend it on my cigarettes. I just didn't want to admit that to myself for the longest time. So one of the things about a demotivator or a budget is that you need to be honest with yourself. If you're lying on your budget, you're just lying to yourself. Okay, so make sure you're honest about how much you're spending, about your situation. And the biggest thing here is don't keep your head in the sand. If something's not right, if your budget is in a minus, if you need to change something, the longer you ignore it, the harder it becomes to do. And if you've got your head in the sand, you can't see when someone runs up behind you with a big stick to crack you over the back. So make sure you keep your head above water. You keep yourself aware of where your money's at, how much you got coming in, how much you got going out, what's changing in your situation. And if your finances change, your budget should get updated. Now, the next question theoretically then is, well, how do I do a budget? Well, how do I make one? There are a number of ways you can do this. You can do it on paper. We have forms. So on Money Works, we have forms like this. You put in all the money you've got coming in. There's some formulas there to help you work it out if it's weekly or monthly. And then once you've done your money coming in, you talk about your money going out. And then you do some math at the bottom. What have you got coming in minus what have you got going out? See how much you've got left. Really simple stuff. And you don't need a fancy printout like this. You know, these are great and nice and, you know, help you can organize your thoughts. But you can do this on a scrap of paper or on the notes in your phone, or you can download apps that will allow you to do this on your phone as well. So there are a number of ways to do a budget. But actually, it just matters that you do it. Just do it. Whether that's on paper, in your phone, have a record somewhere and make sure you're refreshing that when things change. On top of my little bit, here's a video I found from the Money Advice Service on their advice on how to manage your money in general. And they actually have a really good budgeting tool on their website. So if you're interested, check this out as well.
If you're good at managing your money, it can help you stay in control of your finances and help you reach your targets and pay off any borrowing or debts. There are a number of ways you can do this. Firstly, you can use our great online budget planner to work out your budget in minutes. This way you can see how much spare cash you have left after paying off your most important bills. Or you can try and keep a spending diary so you can keep a closer eye on your purchases. It's a good way to see where you're spending your money and what on. You'll rarely be able to earn more from your savings than you will pay on your borrowings, so aim to pay off your debts first, especially those with the highest interest rate. Put simply, you need to spend less than you have coming in, but you also need to set yourself a realistic goal to get the best outcome. For instance, if you can put aside £2 a day for the next 3 months, you can pay for the MOT on the car. For more advice on managing your money, check out the other videos on our website.
So, one option, use the Money Advice Service tool. Paper, pen, phone. I don't care. Just do it. Just make sure you have a record of what you got coming in, what you got going out, and you understand what the difference is. And actually, the ideal budget is not to have plus £100. The ideal budget is to read 0 at the end of it all, because if you have any spare cash that you're not using, it should go to savings. And then you use that as a line on your budget to zero out your budget to 0 left. Saving now is going to help massively in the future. But like the video said, if you're currently in debt, saving is not a priority for you. Paying off the debt is. Okay. So do make sure you check out the Money Advice Service. Declan very kindly has put that in the chat, and you can find that online if you Google it as well. Now, the other thing about this is that when you start doing your budget, you might start to realize that you're spending a lot of money on certain things or certain areas of your life. And one of those things is normally your household costs and, you know, your living expenses. So we're going to take a look at how we can cut some of those costs. And for that, we're going to move over to that screen over there. This one right here. Okay, so we're going to start keeping it really simple. These are tips that you may have heard elsewhere, but some of them are ones that I only really heard about when I started doing this work. So it's not sort of public knowledge. So there might be something here you know, some you don't. Let's see how we go. First and foremost, save money on your household bills. I cannot stress this one enough. This might be the simplest one on this list. You can go to these websites, USwitch, Compare the Market, Go Compare, Confused.com, all these kind of websites to compare pretty much the price of any bill you're trying to pay for. Gas, electric, car insurance, travel insurance, all of that might be difficult at the moment. Why would you pay more for something than you need to? There's no such thing as HD electric. Yeah? Doesn't matter. Electric is electric. Whether you pay £100 a month or £50 a month, it's still going to work the same way. So these websites give you a way to put in your details, tell them what you're currently using, and it will tell you whether someone is cheaper for you or not. I do this every single year. And the reason I only do it yearly is because I lock in a fixed price for 1 year and then I update after that. So actually, there are other tools that you can now get. I think it's Compare the Market and a couple of these other ones. They also have auto switching tools. Look After My Bills is another one that you can use, which will do it all for you. You tell it your situation and it automatically checks whether something's better for you. And if it is, it tells you, and it makes it easy to make that switch. So don't pay more for your gas, electric, broadband, phone, whatever. Compare them first. That's the best tip I can give you on this list. The best one. Probably should have put it last, but never mind. Get your shopping bill down. We all need to eat. Do we all need to eat from Waitrose or Sainsbury's when we could go to Aldi or Lidl? That's one way to get your shopping costs down. Go to one of those cheaper retailers. Obviously, that's not an option for everyone, or some people just don't choose to do that, and that's fine. There's still some other tips. Tip number 1, never go shopping hungry. Just don't do it. Don't go shopping hungry. Don't go shopping drunk. Don't go shopping under the influence. You will spend more money when you see all the glorious food that you could be having. So try not to do that. Make sure you take a list, because a list will help focus your mind onto what you actually need to buy. Remember the tricks that they play in shops. When you look at the shelf, the eye level product is normally the most expensive. Look down, look up. Those will be cheaper options. Normally the same kind of thing, just maybe an own brand. And a lot of own brands are made in the same factory. Just bear that in mind. If you really are fixed about brands, try the brand challenge. Go down one step. So if you're used to having name brand ketchup, try the supermarket's own brand ketchup next. And if that works, maybe try the value stuff that costs like 10p. And see how far you're willing to go. Don't buy something you're not going to eat because it's a waste of money. But if you're willing to compromise on certain things, get those things cheaper. For example, I will not compromise on Coca-Cola. I will not drink a name brand Coca-Cola, but I will have any ketchup you give me. In fact, I tend to prefer cheap takeaway ketchup. You know what I'm talking about? The really runny stuff you get in the bottles. I love that stuff, but it's cheap. Shouldn't be about the price. It should be about what you like. So try the brand challenge. Take it down a step. See if that's bearable, and that might save you some cash. See if you can take it down another step, and just see where you go from there. Next up, don't be ripped off by name brand medicines. It's funny that we tweeted about this today as well, that actually there's a lot of information out there about how medicines are a little bit of a rip-off at times, and Martin Lewis was a great one for this. Here's a video he did when he was on This Morning with Holly and Phil, explaining what you should be looking for on medicines to potentially save big bucks.
If they have an identical PL code, which is on the back of the packet, they are the same tablet.
Oh, right.
Not the same active ingredient, the same tablet.
Oh, wow.
So big pharmaceutical companies spend millions of pounds promoting this. Go with the name you know. Go with the name you know. And that's just baloney in most cases. And I'll prove it to you. They're identical. So let's take this. Beecham's all-in-one hot lemon menthol powder, 10 sachets, £4.99. Active ingredients, paracetamol, phenylephrine, and guaifenesin. Wilko's, £1.85, 10 sachets. Look on the back. Hopefully the graphics will turn over as I do that. There we go. The PL code, 12063/0104. They are the same tablet.
And just remind us again the price difference.
£4.99 for the one branded Beecham's, £1.85 for the one in Wilko.
Wow.
And this happens all over the place.
So, do you really want to pay double because the name on the packet is a name you've heard of before? Check the PL number. Now, one thing he did mention, Don't forget, if it's the same PL number, it's the same ingredients. If it's a slightly different PL number, it might have different ingredients in it. This only applies to the same, identical PL numbers. But it does work, and I have checked this. Paracetamol, £3 difference between name brands and own brands. So one way to save some money, especially if you're worried about getting sick, climate as it is, don't spend too much on the medicines to keep yourself safe and to keep yourself feeling okay. Next up, free trials. I'm a huge advocate for taking out free trials. The one thing that I find a lot of people do is they forget to cancel the free trials. One really useful tip here, just a really quick one before we move on to the next one. Most trials will let you cancel the same day you set up, but keep all your privileges for the length of the free trial. So, for example, Disney Plus currently not doing free trials because Hamilton's coming on July 3rd, and they've stopped people having free trials. But when they first started up, I got a free trial with them. And literally the minute I finished signing up for the free trial, I went to my settings and I cancelled my subscription, but I still got 30 days for free. I've done this with Spotify, with Netflix, and it's absolutely fine. Amazon Prime as well. So if you are going to sign up for a free trial, don't fall into what we call forgetting payments. Don't fall into that, I've just forgotten about them, the apathy, and then paying these people every month when you don't need to. Cancel the trial first. And if you decide you want to keep it, restart the payment. Top tip. Make sure you don't forget that you're paying them as well. Next up, leave shopping items in your online shopping cart for 24 hours. What you can see here on the screen is what we call an abandoned cart email template. This is something that shops use to try and entice you back. What happens? Actually, you know what? I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to let Miss Bridget explain this one.
People think the internet has to be quick. But patience is a very good thing online. Here's a tip that I learned that could help you too. When you see something you like, just put it in your basket and then wait. Don't click buy. Because sometimes the retailer might send you an email saying, well, hello, Miss Bridget. We noticed you were interested in so-and-so. Here's a voucher for 10% off if you buy it now. Well, thank you, Mr. Retailer. I shall now click buy. We could all be better off online. Ask a Barclays Digital Eagle for more tips.
Leave it in the basket and they email you saying, do you still want this? Here's some money off. Great. The other reason this works is because pausing for 24 hours means that you have that chance to go, do I really want this? Do I really need this? Yeah, those kind of 3 tips we talked about earlier on. Can I get this cheaper? So pause, breathe. They want you to get excited and just buy. This is why abandoned cart emails are becoming much more popular. You might start seeing these more and more. And sometimes they don't have a discount, but sometimes they do. My wife has had ones from shopping manufacturers where it's been 15 to 20% off. And you heard about Miss Bridget. You had her experience as well. So do try pausing for 24 hours, seeing if that helps you. Next up and last up for today, for this little section, we're talking about cashback again. We mentioned this about making money, but I found a video from Quidco which explains how it works. So cashback is basically free money back when you buy stuff. Here's a video to explain it. It really is that simple. And one thing to say is that there are lots of places on Quidco and Top Cashback, which is another website you can use, including places like Deliveroo, Uber Eats, Just Eat, your kind of fast food places. Amazon is currently available as well. So the other trick you can play here is making sure that everything you buy online, every website you go to quidco.com or topcashback.co.uk first. Then you click the link to the shop you want to go to and generate that free cash. And I legitimately have 400 odd pounds as Quidco earnings in the last couple of years. So it really works. It's totally free. Doesn't cost you a penny. The way they make their money is that they get the kickback from the organization that they send you to because they pay Quidco a commission. Quidco is just carving off some of that commission to you. So no brainer, really. If you can make free money just by spending your money normally, cashback might be the way to do it. That's just a few ways to cut some costs, but we're going to move into our next section in a second. Before I do that, I just wanted to show you these. These are some useful websites for you this week. So Free Cycle, if you need free stuff, some free stuff on Free Cycle you might be able to take. Quidco we talked about, Money Saving Expert, lots of top tips about how to save some cash into budgeting, and then some comparison sites if you want to check whether you're getting the best deal for your electric, gas, etc. And if you're into apps, here are some apps that you might find useful. Daily Budget and Spending Tracker, both very useful for doing budgets and understanding where your money's going. Yolt lets you take all your bank accounts across all different companies and put them in one place. Also then looks at upcoming debits and sees if it can get you a cheaper deal on any of the things and subscriptions you've got out. Wonderbill lets you see all your bills in one place and remind you when things are coming up. And there is a Quidco app as well for when you're on the move. So these are all the things that I would suggest in terms of cutting costs. But we're going to move into real talk. And this week, something a little bit different. So this week, I don't have a guest with me. In fact, my guest is me. It's me from the past. Anyway, shorter hair. Slightly less, more relaxed wear, let's say. We asked some of our staff a while back for what happens if you have bad money tips. What's the worst things you've heard over the years, that kind of stuff. So we collected a few from our staff. They sent them through to me on an email and asked me to read them out and react to some of the responses. So here we go. This is what I'm lovingly calling Frankie Money Tips. So, first one I've got here says, next time you visit the hairdresser, collect the discarded hair from the floor, with which there are a multitude of uses. So, okay, let's see what the uses are. Number one, stuffing pillows and coats. I don't know, I don't even like feathers in pillows because you can always feel them poking through the outside. So I don't know if I'd stuff it with human hair. Putting in plant pots to provide nutrients for plants. If that works, I don't know much gardening. But if that works, that seems like a fair one. Okay, cool. Making teddy bears for children. Nah, Cheers. Thanks very much. Burning as a sweet-smelling incense. As someone who has had run-ins with gas cookers before, trust me when I say that hair burning is not a sweet smell. It's not. Trust me. Weaving into a rug. That's going to take a lot of hair. Or a homemade toupee. Nah, less hair. I guess people do cut their long hair off and decide to give it away to people. So yeah, fair enough. Twisting into a rope. I've heard about that in emergency times, and obviously Rapunzel. Plaiting into removable hipster beard. Yeah, I don't feel the need for a hipster beard. I've got enough of a beard going on as it is, so that's cool. Adding to a smoothie as extra fiber for a healthy diet. Yeah. Smoothies are fine. Hair in smoothies not. I can't even think about that. That's awful. Collecting hair from the hairdresser. I don't know. I mean, it depends. It depends what you're going to do with it. I certainly wouldn't eat it or burn it. But putting it in plant pots for nutrients, yeah, maybe that's a good use of it. So, yeah, maybe it kind of depends on how you're using it. Next one. My cousin makes a lump of granola and carries it around in a resealable bag. And when he gets hungry, he just bashes the bag around on any odd object and has a ready-made snack so doesn't have to buy food when he's out. Well, I'm guessing this came in before lockdown because we're not going out. But also, why not just have a bag of granola? Why does it need to be a lump? And I don't eat enough granola. Surely you could just have a bag of loose granola and just take a handful out. Yeah, and the idea of bashing it against walls and stuff, thumbs down. There's got to be easier ways to do that. I mean, I don't think making a lump of granola is any cheaper than having just granola in the bag. Surely you've got to put something in to make it a lump. All right, next one. Surprise your dinner guests with this money-saving tip. So here we go. Here's one that might work if you're in lockdown with housemates or family members. Instead of spending hard-earned cheese on expensive pedicure treatments and Parmesan cheese, give yourself a pedicure, simultaneously create a tasty condiment by grating the dry skin from your feet directly onto your guest's pizza or pasta dishes. This has the advantage of tasting nicer than the real deal too. I don't know what Parmesan you're eating, but my Parmesan doesn't taste like that. It's fine. I prefer Parmesan cheese to foot rubbings. No, don't do that. That almost feels like it's a soul. Don't feed me your foot scrapings. Thumbs down on that one. There's easier ways to save cash. Please don't do that. That's awful. Oh, okay. Long story here. when I was at uni with some friends, some members of the rugby team were being a bit cheap and were making bulk meals. I turned up one day to find someone shouting, I've burnt it, it's ruined. I stayed where I was as a backline beast rumbled across the ceiling. I poked my head around the door to see like a singular blob of flesh throw itself down the stairs, separating mid-air and piling up on the landing like a Blues Brothers car crash. Turns out they were harder up than I thought. I'd interrupted their closed casserole, which involved them shoving their entire kit into the oven along with our meal to dry. They didn't have a washing machine, so you had shepherd's pie with flakes of mud and... No, don't save time by putting your drying in with your food. Your oven is not made for drying your clothes, and your food is not made to soak up the stuff that comes off your clothes as well. Big thumbs down on that one. There's got to be easier ways to save cash than to do that at the same time as your food. Now, keep that separate. Run your washing machine at 30 degrees instead of 40. There's a money-saving tip for you that will work. Yeah, that will help. All right, couple of smaller ones to close it out. Throw all your loose change in your pocket in the self-service machine before you pay with cards or like notes. Yes, absolutely, do this all the time. So if I've got a few quid in my pocket, but it's £25. Yes, it's not going to pay the whole thing, but it just means less coming off the card. And if you're not saving your shrapnel, you may as well do something with it to take the load off your card. Obviously, you'll be shopping less, I'm guessing, with COVID-19 and people being indoors. But if you are going to self-service and self-checkout, good tip. I like that one. Thumbs up for that one. Turn up at your mates at meal times. Most will feed you, and over time, loathe you. Yeah, maybe. I mean, yes, free meals is always nice if your friends are cooking, and if I've got meals and my friends are around, we always feed them. But I certainly wouldn't advocate going so often that people started to get upset with you. So maybe a kind of middle ground one for that, I think. But yeah, let's see how that goes. Next one, put your credit card in a bag of water in a freezer to stop impulse purchases. You'll only get it if you really want it, and I've seen the ice pick at work. Well, I think, yes, if you need to delay yourself from picking up a card and going to spend quickly, then freezing it in a block of ice is an old technique. I've heard a lot of people talk about that. Only problem, I guess, is in case you need it in an emergency, do you really want to be going through a block of ice in an emergency? Also, might take up a bit of space in your freezer, depending on how much space you've got. There are other ways to resist temptation. You might put it somewhere really hard to get to, or give it to a family member. But the idea of putting it somewhere you can't get to it easily is a good idea. Freezing is a medium idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. Shouldn't damage your card or anything. It should be fine. Perfect. Last one. Zombify your dead batteries by throwing them in the freezer to squeeze some extra life out of them. Absolutely true. If you know anything about physics, you'll know that when the molecules in batteries, when they get cold, they calm down. That means that the energy can conduct itself more. So you don't recharge them if you put them in the freezer. You just get the last little dregs out of your battery a little bit simpler. So yeah, thumbs up for that one. If you've got batteries that need just a little bit more juice, like a little bit, like one more day of life, stick them in the freezer. Don't leave them in for too long. And never put your batteries in a heat source. I saw someone the other day saying, put them in the microwave. If you want to blow up your microwave, crack on. Otherwise, don't expose your batteries to heat. It is a bad idea. Freezers, small amounts of time, it's okay. You just buy. But yeah, that's basically it. Some of those were okay. Some of them are questionable. Don't put hair in your smoothies. I don't think you need to do that. I don't think anyone ever needs to do that. Promise my mic's not off. What? Yeah, I did that a few weeks ago. I forgot about some of those, so reliving that was a bit of a nightmare. Don't put hair in your food, and don't put your washing in with your food. Keep them separate. That's why you have a washing machine and an oven, and not a washing oven. All right? Okay. Yeah, some of those were pretty dire. Let's give you some proper tips to round out the show tonight. All right, so let's give you some decent tips. Tip number 1, it's always better to know about your situation than to not know about your situation. So if you're in debt, if you're not sure, if you're a bit concerned, it's better to be informed than it is to not know what's going on. So make sure you get the information you need to make choices for your finances. Next up, remember to check if you can get your bills cheaper using those comparison sites, and not just gas and electric either. Broadband, mobile phone, everything. Check everything. There's no point in paying more money than you need to for the same service Remember, there's no such thing as HD Electric. Last up, press pause on your purchase for 24 hours, especially when you're buying online, to see if you can get that abandoned cart email to come through with a little bit of a discount. And as always, you can check out the websites we mentioned here. Pause the YouTube video if you're watching back later on. This is the website list. This is the app list, and we're going to get out of this show for this week. Okay, so that is it for another week. That's episode 9 over. Next week, episode 10, the last in season 1 of the Moneycast. We're going to be taking a week or so to review our show format, what we want to do for season 2. So if you want to have any suggestions about what we do for season 2, please do send them to us, info@mybank.org. We might also be looking for some people to try and get involved. So if you want to be involved in this and want to learn about how we do this, again, info@mybank.org. As always, you can check us out on our social media channels throughout the week, or join us again here at 4 p.m. for our last episode of the season. As always, my name is Nick Smith-Patel. I'm the head of education for young adults at MyBank. I've been your host for this week's My Moneycast. As always, I'm going to say goodbye. Stay safe. Take care. Bye-bye.